Hey there, theme architects, and welcome back to Theme Park Sandbox. My name is Drew.
My name is Aaron.
And welcome back to the show. Now, you guys will notice, first of all, Aaron, it has been quite a while. We should acknowledge that.
Looking at the old calendar right now, we have been out of recording booths, our very fancy recording booths that we've spent many dozens of dollars on for over a year now. We've had no theme parkitecting in either of our lives for 12 plus months. Well, we have a good reason for that.
We do.
We have a good reason.
We do, yeah. So for those of you who don't know Aaron and I personally, we both got jobs. Yay!
We got jobs. We sold out. We work for the man again.
We do. It's a cool man. We're not going to tell you who the cool man is, but it's the same company and we're on opposite coasts, which is really awesome. But we should say, you'll notice that you don't see our beautiful faces this time around.
We have changed our format to audio only. It has to do with this third eyeball that I've been growing right above the bridge of my nose. I've really learned a lot about the more mystical parts of the world, but I don't want to. No. It's actually just out of laziness, to be honest.
It's okay, though. You know why? Because we looked at the telematics and we realized that most of you listen to this podcast in your car anyway. So you should not be looking at our beautiful faces regardless.
We didn't want to distract. We don't want unsafe drivers on the road. We want everyone to stay safe and stay enjoying our sultry sounds.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's time to dust off the old Imagineering brain and
That's right.
Talk about some theme park stuff. Now, just because we haven't been doing our podcast does not mean we haven't been going to the parks. Aaron, I know you just recently went, right?
Yes, I did. I actually did a thing that I haven't done in a long time, which is go to a theme park I have never been to before, which was Busch Gardens, which was a really cool time. And I was actually very impressed with their theming. I really wasn't, I didn't have really any expectations, but I wasn't expecting what I saw. I really had a good time. But I've been, a regular haunt at the Disney parks. I've been really loving the Universal parks as well. Having a really good time with a lot of their food going on right now.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I want to go to Busch Gardens the next time I visit. In fact, I think the last time we did an episode was just after I visited you in Florida when it was like sweltering.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and we needed cooling towels, which I think it's that time of year again in Florida, if I remember correctly.
It absolutely is. Absolutely is. It's in that 100% humidity, 90 plus degree day with a little side splash of rain every now and then.
Nice. Well, like I said, we've been going to theme parks. I've been going to theme parks. I've been keeping up on all of the theme park news that's been happening over the past year. And we wanted to talk to you guys about something that we've been noticing, regardless of coast, I think, but mostly on the West Coast. They're a little bit more vocal. I think it's because we have a lot of pass holders here. But
right.
Everyone on the social media theme park channels seems to be obsessed with the idea of the People Mover coming back to Tomorrowland.
Yes, absolutely. And there are definitely changes coming to the East Coast Tomorrowland, but the West Coast rumor mill has been cranking out some exciting stuff.
Some exciting stuff, which is great because obviously that's where we live. We live in the imagination and things that don't exist. But what's interesting about it is I keep hearing these kind of opposing ideas that the Innovations building in Tomorrowland is going to be knocked down, but then the next week I'll see that the People Mover is coming back or that it's possible for it to come back, when in reality, I don't want to ruin anyone's dreams, but the People Mover goes through the Innovations building.
The two are intrinsically connected in a way that money could fix it, but the amount of time,
Yeah, and your guys is on the East Coast had been closed for a long time, and it took them like quite a while to get back up and running, from what I understand, right?
Yeah, they'd been doing some aesthetic improvements just to get the sort of look of Tomorrowland back to where they want it. It was kind of in that sort of gold steampunky kind of leftovers from a couple of decades back, and so they've changed some stuff and made some nice improvements and brought the People Mover back just as it has always been. I do have to mention that there will be a new attraction coming in that's like very visible from the People Mover. Tron Light Cycle Run is coming in hot, and so they're going to have to add some little blurb. You can't just walk by or ride by that huge attraction, the e-ticket ride, and not call attention to it.
Right. And what's like, I was kind of shocked, and tell me if you were shocked, but like, from what I understand with the box office, like Tron Legacy did not do as well as they had hoped. Like, I'm a huge fan of the movie, but I was kind of shocked when they announced that it was going to be coming to Florida. Excited, but it was just kind of like, I don't know. It would be like if they had a ride, themed to the John Carter film, right? Good movie.
Right.
Not very popular in the box office.
Right. No, I agree. And I was a big fan of the original Tron. And so I went into Tron Legacy like super stoked, went opening weekend and had the normal like rush, the crowds, the whatever. But then nobody came on day 2. And yeah, I don't think that it was a massive hit like they had hoped. And they pushed it. They pushed it hard. There was Flynn's Arcade in the parks. There was all sorts of really cool tie-ins. Didn't they have the whole like DJ dance party in California Adventure? It was like all Tronified for a while.
Yes, yeah, you're throwing me back. That was called Electronica, and it was like
Electronica
a neon night rave in Hollywood, and they hung a big laser from the Hollywood Studios like arch, which is no longer there. But that was kind of trippy, kind of cool. But I guess we. As much as I would say like Tron Legacy wasn't a success, I'm really happy to see them kind of revamping Tomorrowland in any sort of way, like kind of putting money into it. That's pretty exciting that they're doing aesthetic changes. Ours, I mean, the People Mover track in Disneyland is pretty sad. It's still gold back from the 50th when it was Rocket Rod. So for those of you who don't know, the People Mover was like a very slow moving attraction. And then in like 1999, they closed and opened up, I think it was 1999, but they opened Rocket Rods, which was like a super fast paced, almost like a roller coaster car experience. But they didn't bother banking any of the turns. So the cars they were eating through tires because they were slowing down for every turn and then speeding back up. And it only lasted like 1.5, maybe 2 years, from what I remember. So it'd be really interesting to see them go back to the slow-moving People Mover and to see if that would be even possible, considering I would imagine they had to change out the entire track, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, I think all that they really did is they sort of modified something from what Test Track might have been, and like from a technology perspective, and then made it fit. They made it fit in the People Mover very narrow space. So I'm sure that there were track changes to accommodate that, because I think the People Mover, at least I know on the East Coast, just runs on like, just very low power. There's like some tires that roll stuff through, and it's like pretty low tech.
Right, I remember
and then to
going
get like
on it.
Yeah, and to get like a late 90s or early 2000s level roller coaster ride vehicle. I mean, the Test Track vehicle is essentially an EV, or like same thing of Radiator Springs. It's essentially an EV. Like it's a full blown machine.
Yeah, the one in Florida, if I remember correctly, there's like little like linear induction like pads that are spread out along the track, and those are what propel you forward and slow you down. It's a pretty clunky system from what I remember, but it's pretty cool, and it's a really classic attraction. And quite frankly, if you're in Florida, it's a break from the rain, which is awesome.
It is.
And then what's cool about both attractions on both coasts is that they go through all of the attractions in Tomorrowland, which apart from Submarine Voyage, obviously here on the West Coast, but it goes over it, which is kind of cool. Now, I actually had some ideas about our People Mover, if you would like to hear them. They're pretty cool.
I would love to. Yes.
So to kind of combat this rumor that Innoventions is going to be bulldozed for some sort of seating area for Pizza Port, and that the People Mover is going to come back, I actually, as we both know, there's no way to have one without the other because it goes through the track. And I think modifying the track, I'm sure, would have you run into a load of permitting issues and just construction issues, right? So My idea actually keeps both of the structures up. And the way I would do that, a lot of folks don't really know this, but the Innoventions building is actually quite round and long in circumference. And so that's where, from what I understand, that's where like the rocket rods and the people mover cars would get added and removed. Like they would add a cart or take take off a cart from the track. And it was the first attraction to be able to do that without having personnel watching it actively happen. So what I would do is actually turn the downstairs Innoventions into sort of a Flynn's arcade experience. Because if you guys have ever been to Innoventions at Disneyland, you'll know. And Aaron, do you remember? It used to be like full of games.
Yep.
Even when it was the not Innovention, it was just the Innoventions Dream Home. It was still full of games.
Yeah.
So why change it, right? You know, like I don't think the building rotates anymore based on the construction that I've seen, but the bottom line is just use it as a queue. Flynn's Arcade downstairs, and then upstairs, I want that to become almost like an attraction loading zone. I think that'd be pretty cool. And then change the load platform from the center of Tomorrowland and put it in the back of Innoventions. I don't think it would be crazy difficult to do. I think you would be able to have like the grid upstairs, which would be kind of neat. Or you can just skip. You can just divide the two halves. There's an upstairs and a downstairs, and just make the downstairs Flynn's Arcade, and then you walk up the ramp, and upstairs you're on the grid.
Yeah,
and then that kind of begins your journey through Tomorrowland, which, you know, I know it's supposed to be a journey into a computer, but Tomorrowland's also pretty cool.
I agree. Yes. Yeah. I mean, they could even do some kind of fun, I don't know what they call it, de-resing. Is that right?
Yeah.
The, like digitizing process. You get turned into little squares and make that like some kind of cool experience. And that's what happens when you go up an elevator or go up some kind of moving platform and bang, there you are. You're in the computer. You're on the grid. I love that. And moving that entrance back does a couple of like kind of interesting things. It moves the guest flow all the way in the back instead of kind of like congesting that center of what's basically like an intersection. You know, it's like you sort of go this way. You go this way if you're going to like Space Mountain, Pizza Port, etc. And then you go this other way if you're going to Autopia or maybe to the monorail or to submarines if you like kind of like passed by it. So like it is an intersection of traffic that you're congesting, and now you can open that up and just keep people moving, and it walks them all the way through the length of the land as well, which I think is really clever. It's like you get to show everything, and then they get to experience it from a new vantage point.
Right. And quite frankly, I think people miss having the old Starcade below the Space Mountain queue, which for a short period of time became like a magic key. Magic key.
It was like a lounge or something,
right?
Right?
It was an exclusive lounge. And I mean, that was okay, but I think people really miss the Starcade. So I like the idea of kind of not only paying homage to the Starcade, but also to Innoventions, because that was just a place where you played games, essentially, if you wanted to kind of beat the heat, right? So, and like I said, if they're putting Tron over on the East Coast, well, the West Coasters want some Tron too. And that definitely is something that I would love to see. And the idea of just having a dusty old arcade sounds cool.
Yeah. Well, and am I wrong? I might be getting way too into the plot and into the weeds here, but am I wrong that in the arcade in the film, don't you go upstairs to get to the office where you actually get de-resed, or is it just like
it was a weird like loft building where it had like the games downstairs, but upstairs was kind of like there was like a couch and it looked like he was living up there. But I'm pretty sure the entrance to the actual attraction was behind the Tron.
Behind the arcade cabinet.
Right, which was downstairs. But man, how cool would that be? If like
that'd be great.
You wait downstairs or upstairs, and then there's a cast member there, and then all of a sudden they pull the Tron door open. Or like the front of the game console open.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning of your queue. Like, man, what a cool experience that would be to just kind of live that moment from the movie.
Yeah, that'd be incredible. I love that. And I mean, the copy paste technique that they're using with the light cycle run on the East Coast, I will speak for myself and just say, like, it's a bummer that it's taking so long to build, and it's also a bummer that it's a several-year-old ride on day one of opening.
Right.
So to get something new, to get something fresh with that Tron flavor, with that excitement, and hopefully it's something that doesn't lead to, like, what I'm sort of afraid is inevitable with Tomorrowland, especially in Anaheim, which is like this big just land of scrim and construction walls that is just a hallway to and from Space Mountain and nothing else. It's like, here's your very narrow hallway route to get to Space Mountain or to get to the submarines, and everything else is closed. Like, this avoids that. This avoids that really tragic kind of a look that I hope never happens, but I'm becoming more afraid.
Yeah, like, and it's really funny to me because every time you talk to someone who is, likes going to the theme parks and whatnot, you hear a lot of like, oh, well, they should just do this. Well, in reality, it's really, really difficult because Tomorrowland is all the attractions are so intertwined with each other. It's kind of a maze where the walls have been moved 27 times and you don't remember how they were before. But like, even Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters, that used to be the queue for rocket rods. So if you were to try to load where the old rocket rod / people mover line went, you couldn't because Buzz Lightyear's there. So
yeah,
it's kind of, you guys are kind of getting an understanding of how complex Tomorrowland is due to the amount of layers and the amount of overlays that have happened at that land since it's opened. And I mean, that's a good thing, right? That means it's always going to be changing, which is really cool. And that was kind of Walt's thing. Like, Disneyland will never be complete as long as there's like imagination. And his favorite land, no doubt, was Tomorrowland because he liked looking towards the future. But I just think retheming and revamping Tomorrowland is just going to be an increasingly difficult thing to do. Because our technology just progresses so fast. I think really the only thing, and I know you have some opinions on the idea, Aaron, is that the only thing you can really change without anyone getting mad is kind of Space Mountain. Like, we've had multiple iterations, right?
Yeah, I mean, there've been tons of overlays of Space Mountain, and I think there are even rumors nowadays that there's an eventual Lightyear overlay that may come to Space Mountain. But I mean, we've had some crazy weird stuff with Space Mountain. Did you ever do the Red Hot Chili Peppers rock concert overlay?
I did actually. Yeah. It was what's funny about it to me looking back is that, if you don't know, first of all, they had a Red Hot Chili Peppers. That was back when Red Hot Chili Peppers was like at their absolute prime. And so they decided to kind of do a rock and roller coaster spin here on the West Coast with Space Mountain. And what was funny about it is they played a Stevie Wonder song. It wasn't even a Red Hot Chili. Yeah. Oh no, it wasn't Superstitious. It was, I can't remember. Anyway, I'll think of it later.
We'll get there. But I mean, it's a Chili Peppers cover of a Stevie Wonder tune.
Right.
And it's just, it's very much like you're in a roller coaster inside of a disco ball kind of aesthetic.
Right. You know what song it was? It was Higher Ground by Stevie Wonder.
Higher Ground. There we go.
Yeah. And then, of course, we all know Hyperspace Mountain, which is the Star Wars, overlay, which I don't know. A lot of people seem to, and including myself, a lot of people think that the Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind kind of beta test was kind of Hyperspace Mountain. Now, you've been on it. I haven't.
I agree.
Based on the videos that I've seen, it almost seems like Hyperspace Mountain and Ghost Galaxy were kind of a proof of concept for Cosmic Rewind. Do you agree?
Definitely, it was proof of the technology working. And the way that you can sort of pass a scene at roller coaster speeds and have some level of understanding, some level of awareness. Now, I've been on Guardians just once, and I had to go back and watch YouTube videos to understand exactly the intricacies of what I was seeing. And it's not that important for your enjoyment, but to give this really just like light sprinkling of story with some like fun, recognizable characters and locations, or ships, or whatever the case may be. Certainly, sound effects plays a big role, and in Guardians, the soundtrack plays a big role.
Right.
I think that's really what they are after, is sort of like the vibe of the stories that you're used to, rather than an authentic, really like beginning, middle, end story.
Yeah,
in a roller coaster.
And I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout here on the West Coast is exactly the same. It's not an actual story that we've seen in a movie, but it's the same likeness, the same characters, the same jokes, and the same, similar music. So, I really, now that I really like think about it, Hyperspace Mountain with all the action, but then also the music from the Red Hot Chili Peppers put together, kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
It kind of makes a perfect attraction that's interactive.
And Guardians is very much, like, very obviously, in my opinion, a spiritual successor to Space Mountain, to the degree where I could see them retheming the West Coast space and knocking down the East Coast one. I don't think that will happen, but I could see a reality in which that could happen, because there's a lot of other cool stuff they could put in that place. Maybe it's its own Flynn's Arcade that sort of leads into the Light Cycle run. Maybe it's something else. I also kind of think that it would be weird to have the, I don't want to say photorealistic, but like the like base reality version of Buzz Lightyear, because he's the movie character that the toy is based off of. So like that whole universe breaking thing also tickles my mind in a funny way. But if you have like Chris Evans Buzz and Tim Allen Buzz that are both in the same land, kind of like looking at one another, like who's the alpha here, I think something's got to give. So either you got to give like the Astro Blasters or Space Ranger spin, you got to give that a retheme or a break, or shut it down, or turn it into Ant-Man, or do whatever you got to do. Or you got to really consider what you're doing with Lightyear on a retheme level to space.
Yeah, I will say having the new Lightyear movie overlaid over Space Mountain would be easier, because technically he's a human and so are you, versus the Buzz Lightyear toy.
Being a toy.
You would have to Toy Story Landify everything, which is immersive and difficult and kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say it doesn't work, but it's definitely, I don't think it would be as long lasting.
Right. Well, and it would bring up all the same questions that a lot of people had when Galaxy's Edge opened, where you can walk directly from Andy's backyard, where you are a toy, the size of a toy, and you see this giant footprint on the ground, and you walk 25 feet, and then suddenly you're on another, outworld outpost in the Star Wars galaxy. And it's like, they do their best. They do a good job of transitioning, but from that overall perspective of like what is actually going on, this sort of like the meta storytelling of a theme park, it's a little weird. Like we can admit that's a bit weird.
It was a bit jarring, I'm not gonna lie, because I remember half of our party, when I was there, half of our party wanted Ronto wraps, and the other half wanted Woody's Lunchbox, right?
Yep.
And so I remember specifically walking my grilled cheese, pulled pork grilled cheese, or whatever, from Woody's Lunchbox into the Galaxy's Edge, and being like, well, this is weird.
Yeah. It's somehow weird that like you feel guilty for bringing in like the wrong props in to set or something.
Totally. And like, and maybe it's just the total nerd Imagineer, in us to kind of break the theme a little bit, but it was definitely a strange feeling for sure.
You got to throw away that Dasani and get yourself a proper thermal detonator. That Dasani does not go here.
Exactly. It's got to have Arabesh lettering on it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I just, what do you think about People Mover in Florida? I wanted to kind of bring that up and see, like, do you have any, like, does it look good? Like, what can you tell me what they're working on?
I mean, man, the People Mover is sort of just a staple, and it's got that like nice quality level of jankiness that people either love or hate. But it's kind of just its classic deal. They improved some of like the aesthetics, the sort of railways and some strut work and like just exterior stuff that's like really just for the land overall. But as far as the attraction itself, I mean, that thing has really not seen much change other than voiceovers, which there's an inevitable update coming soon anyways. But I don't really imagine that there's going to be a lot in the way of changing that. I would love to see them update and smoothen that thing out and make that like very, very much like a futuristic transportation means. I just don't see that in the cards versus all of the other things that they would rather do in Tomorrowland. You know,
Yeah.
Whether that be doing something new with that classic Space Mountain, or bringing it kind of up to date with, you know, Tron being a very modern attraction and kind of just bringing up the whole level of the area. You know, you'd think maybe on paper that the rising tide of Tron bringing in all this sort of modernity would lift all the ships up, but it's really just showing what ships are seaworthy and which ones are going to sink as kind of the modern appearance and that sort of like futurism and the retrofuturism start clashing.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you used the word sink, because I was just thinking of kind of an old attraction that's at Disneyland that everyone thought was going to be going away. And then surprise, surprise, Disney dumped a ton of money into it. And actually, that's Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage. When the parks closed, everyone was immediately, I mean, I don't think anyone expected that ride to come back. There was several news outlets, like theme park news outlets, that said like, I hope you enjoyed riding it that last time you rode it, because it's probably never coming back. They were incredibly, old school with their technology. The projector rooms were definitely showing their age. And quite frankly, the subs, cast members, a lot of people don't realize this, but that cast member is in full control of that vehicle. There are no safeguards. I mean, like if they bump the submarine in front of them, which happened frequently from what I understand, they bumped it and it left a big old dent in the front, in the front of the submarine. But here we are today. It just opened last week when I was at the park, not too long ago. So, I mean, you never know. You never know. Sometimes Disney, they are nostalgic, and for good reason, but in the case of Tomorrowland, I would really love to see something new happen. And I think, what do they call it in Paris? They call it something. They don't have like a Tomorrowland. They have like a Discovery something, right?
Discovery Land or Discovery. I think it's Discovery Land.
Yeah. But
it's different. It's very Jules Verne. It's
right.
Kind of what Disney was going for in that particular era when we had a gold Space Mountain facade. But it works because they really went whole hog on it, and they had that Imagineering team incept it from top to bottom to be its own thing and to live in this sort of fantastical element. So it's not Tomorrowland meaning future. It is a sort of feeling of what technology might have been if history had changed dramatically.
Right.
If some like, turn of the 19th century kind of steampunk thing had really just been the deal where we know Thomas Edison, it would have been somebody else and they would have done their own brand new thing, and it would have been very Jules Vernean.
Right.
Even you get to see that a bit in Disney Sea in Tokyo. You get to see a little bit of their interpretation of that style of theming. And I think that it is evergreen is really the reason that it's so brilliant. I mean, it's well done. It's well executed. There are lots of well executed lands, but to do the Tomorrowland style and then have it be really permanent and ageless is so smart.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, just talking about what Tomorrowland was based on, do you think that Tomorrowland, and viewers, please feel free to chime in and let us know what you think on this too, but Or listeners, I should say. No more viewers. Just listeners.
No more viewers.
Yeah, but let us know if you think that Tomorrowland would be more timeless if it wasn't based on real technology, or would it seem cheesy? You know, like I frequently think about that as I'm walking through Tomorrowland. You look at the ground, you look at the texture on the walls, you say, is this kind of far out enough? And will it ever be far out enough as far as design and aesthetics that we'll just take it for what it is, right? Like a good example is Star Wars. Star Wars is so out of this world that it's just Star Wars, but it's got these defining props and like these textures that if you were to see a wall, you would say, oh, that's very Star Wars, right? You don't really get that with the Tomorrowland, right? Like, what would that look like? When we've tried to kind of go, Incredibles took like the modern contemporary, vibe, and you can look at some stuff and say, oh, that's very Incredibles, right? So like what
the
would
mid-century
be...
modern thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So like what would be that for Tomorrowland besides stucco and gold or this weird silver blue?
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of just like very stark plain white. I even think back to like the old rocket, that the flight to the moon attraction and that sort of whole thing. It was also very, I think that's where they stuck a lot of the World's Fair type of stuff.
Yeah.
So like that had an element of it, which World's Fair had its own sort of vibe of the future, but it was also like a 5-year in the future kind of a thing, or maybe it's like this just came out, not so much a World's Fair, almost more like the Electronics Expo, or what is it in Vegas, the CES,
right? CES,
kind of an idea to it. Yeah.
I do have moments in time where I kind of want, and I doubt this would ever happen, but I kind of want Marvel to take over Tomorrowland, but not Marvel like you would think. I would love to see like the Stark Expo take over Tomorrowland so that we can have some sort of, imagination. They can write and tell whatever story they want to come up with. It doesn't have to be based on any technology or realism from our world. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, longtime viewers will know that our first episode on Autopia, we went pretty hard in making Autopia kind of Howard Starkian in a way. So
yeah, your idea was fantastic.
That's definitely something that's been on my mind for a while.
I would just love to go to Tomorrowland and see. By the way, if you've never seen our Autopia episode, it was our first ever episode, and it's fantastic. You gotta watch it. It's pretty great. But yeah, I just think also just the time frame would be really cool. It's kind of like I don't, what time frame would that be? Is it like the 40s?
I would put it in the like World War II is kind of where they place it.
Right.
I don't know. The timeline's a little weird.
It's oddly
but,
also a bit steampunky.
Yes, it is. But so in that sort of like 40s, 50s ish, you see Howard Stark present a flying car during World War II, because there's like all the, come join the army kind of things that Steve Rogers gets into.
Right.
No, this just became a Marvel podcast. And so if you imagine he's like maybe 25 in that, and then he dies in the 90s, so that's 50 years later, he doesn't look like he's in his 70s. He looks a little more spry than that, but whatever. We got to use the actors that we got. Yeah.
Well, I would love to hear all of our listeners' opinions on kind of circling it back around on People Mover and the old Innoventions building, also currently known as Star Wars Launch Bay. What do you guys think? Like, what do you think it should become? Should we keep them both, or should we knock both down? Because, like I said, it is impossible to have one without the other, without doing some pretty serious overhauls to Tomorrowland. And is People Mover something that you want to come back?
Yeah.
It sure seems like Disney does.
Yeah, is it worth ironing out that bowl of spaghetti to try and figure out how to get all of these attractions separate and have their own buildings and their own bespoke everything? Or is it worth it to keep it in its kind of like cool, overlappy way? And if you really want some great made up theme parkitect kudos points, tell us if you remember any of those older iterations. Like if you remember Dream Home, if you remember the Innovations building moving, that'll be worth some fake theme parkitect points that we will allot to you.
They are worth 1/10 of a Shroot buck.
That's right. That's right. And we will be keeping track.
Exactly. Well, in the meantime, guys, thank you so much for joining. And I'll tell you what, I don't want to speak on behalf of Aaron, but I'm very, very excited to be back and kind of letting my creative juices flow again through my brain and thinking of cool stuff. But in the meantime, we also do have, I started a food Instagram.
We've got some shameless plugs coming up. Yes.
Yes. Make sure you watch some of our old videos just to get an idea. This is more of just kind of like a fun, update video as to what we've been up to, as well as the conversations that have been happening in the theme park community. But yes, we did start some food vlogs. I started a food Instagram. It's called Theme Park Lunchbox. But,
Theme Park Lunchbox.
Theme Park Lunchbox West. And then Aaron is going to be starting up the Theme Park Lunchbox East eventually, because we don't want to miss out on all of those delicious foods over on the East Coast. But
Epcot Food and Wine coming in hot.
That's right. That might be the debut time to do it, Aaron. Hint, hint.
That's right. That's right.
There you go. But anyway, any closing words here, Aaron?
I mean, we've got our classic theme park Sandbox Instagram, as well as the theme park Lunchbox East and West. Those ones are definitely the ones to check out. You can check out the YouTube page if you're checking this out on an audio only platform, and we'll also be putting out this audio on YouTube. So if you're there, feel free to subscribe and like. We love that, and we love reading comments especially. But no, Drew, I am super happy to be back. I already feel warm in my seat. I feel warm with the mic in front of me. I'm ready to record 3 more.
It has nothing to do with the hot, intense, humid weather in Florida.
Of course not.
Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining, and we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.
Bye-bye.